Hello, Guru Nation. Welcome back to another special episode. We've become like KMPH Central over here with the content we've been creating about this stock, KemPharm, which is super intriguing. So I have right now, we've been talking like with Niraj for 20 minutes off camera about the things he does. You know, he's in the CRO space. We'll be interviewing you guys more for sure. But Niraj, welcome. You're from a family office of investments, and so you guys are one of the largest KMPH shareholder out there, right?
Yeah. And we just started building the position post approval. So
Okay. And full disclosure, I am also shareholder, but probably one of the smallest shareholder. I got enough. I got enough to like be a little bit worried. I'm not worried long term. I think this is like it become a value play. I was joking around with my friend the other day. I was like, you know what? Like, yeah, we were expecting the pump. I got into KMPH. I was just, like quick trade. I'm gonna gamble that it's gonna get approval, and then I'll get out like in the mid 20s, maybe 30. Who knows with a buyout or how crazy things are getting? Maybe like up to 40. And I was telling my friend the same thing, and now I tell them, hey, look like it's a value play. We can get out for a while, but that's okay. That's okay. It teaches me discipline. It forces me to learn more about the company itself. I might get Travis Mickle on the show soon, so a lot of good things are happening because of it, also. But Niraj, I thank you for your comment on YouTube, and I didn't even realize that you're in this clinical research space as well. So, like I was saying earlier, like we're gonna have to do another podcast
sure.
about that, just about that story by itself. But let's talk KMPH. Let's talk the good, the bad. Let's talk how you discovered this thing in the first place. Why don't we start with that? How did you discover this? And then maybe you can kind of give some background as to your company and those kind of things.
Sure, definitely. So, I'm always looking for good, strong stocks. And as part of my job, I'm the chief investment officer for a family office, and I can give more background on who we are and what we do. And you came across I follow all the blogs, all the different websites, all the different services. And we always like to find companies in healthcare because we're a healthcare focused organization as well. That outside of the family office, we have a large oncology. We're one of the largest oncology care providers in the country, and we have centers all over the world, as well as the CRO, as we mentioned, a global CRO. So healthcare has always been a focus of ours, whether it's in the public markets. We're also involved in venture capital, private equity. We're the first check into a lot of companies in healthcare, in biotech, life science, diagnostics, et cetera. So when I saw the approval come through, that morning, I was excited. There had not been something in ADHD in quite some time. We particularly follow the 505(b)(2) companies.
Mm-hmm.
We think that's a hot area that, in general, is undervalued and not understood by the market. There's so many 505(b)(2) companies that are not trading at the valuations they deserve, in my opinion. Not all of them are great, but a lot of them should be greater. In this case, I believe KMPH. They have now 2 approvals, and this one in ADHD with the way the mechanism of action works, from the 30-minute onset to the 13-hour duration to how the prodrug is absorbed in the system, the fact that it doesn't stunt growth and weight and affect all those things. And most importantly, the founder, Travis Mickle, being very passionate about this, him self-proclaiming he's suffers from ADHD, his kids.
Him and his kids, yep.
Yeah, that to me, when somebody is personally invested in it, that means a lot. And then just doing further research, continuing to build a position. Obviously the stock post approval has not performed well, and we kept building the position. And over time, you just start to get larger and larger as you read more of the story that there's a distribution set up already, the marketing set up already, the whole Vyvanse story. And probably a lot of people watching this probably know a lot of the story, but for the ones who don't, that Dr. Mickle was one of the people who have developed Vyvanse. and that this drug is being considered the new and improved Vyvanse. The same marketing team that launched Vyvanse is now joining Corium, which is their development partner. That's also giving them the milestones. And Corium seems to be leveraging themselves to KemPharm as well. That it looks like a lot of Corium's future success is going to be dependent on KemPharm's approval with this ADHD drug, esters,
Mm-hmm.
and the future drugs that they're going down, that SUD, SUD. And so it's exciting that the company now at KemPharm can focus on the science and then have the marketing and all of that stuff, the manufacturing, not in their everyday distraction, so they can continue to
Yeah.
come up using the 505(b)(2) pathways, their pro drug platform. And so
So
that
I'm
was just
just
exciting
curious.
to me.
I'm curious. Did you guys get involved in KMPH as stockholders prior to the approval or after?
No, after the
After?
approval. Yeah.
Ah, that makes me, and we've talked already, so I feel like I trust you. And we talked about your CRO and all that stuff. But like, let's say you were just a regular investor I didn't know anything about. That would make me trust you more because you you're not like holding the bag and then hoping for, good news. Like you strategically saw, okay, this thing got approved. Now we're gonna get in, and now you keep doubling down. So to me, and to anybody else watching, that should be a good sign. I mean, you guys don't know Niraj. Who knows who he is? But he's somebody who's not holding through the PDUFA, unlike me. I'm holding it out of necessity. But the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, either I'm very wrong about this, or the market's very wrong.
Yeah.
And so something's got to give. And I think the more I look into it, it could be confirmation bias, but the more I look into it and talk to really educated people like you, the more I see, okay, this is like actually a good value long term if it needs to be, but it may not be long term. We may see that bump soon.
Yeah, I think what we, there's been some pump and dump. I don't know if exactly pump and dump excitement about a short squeeze. There's been some debate on what are the short selling numbers, but for getting involved in the stock and why I think it can double, triple, maybe go up more. I believe it's very undervalued. I believe it should have $1 billion tag on this business because of the future sales
Hmm.
and et cetera, that $25 should be where it's hovering around with a large pharmaceutical company looking to acquire it, is the fact that, you want to remove some of the short-term short squeeze, and you want people to buy this because of the opportunity in the long term, not from a stock market mechanical issue, right? There's a whole GameStop phenomenon going
Yeah.
through. Um, so there's a short squeeze aspect, but the short squeeze is not, when you think about short interest, short squeezes, those are not fundamental to a business, right? If Tesla has a high short interest, that doesn't necessarily change how they manufacture cars, how they sell
Right.
cars, how they go about trying to be building the safest cars, the NHTSA ratings they have, et cetera. So using that to apply to KemPharm, they're going after large total addressable markets. They believe, if you follow this idea of TAM, SAM, total addressable market, service addressable market, service attainable market, just using some conservative numbers, they should be in the hundreds of millions of dollars of sales by 2025, 2027, just
Hmm.
in the ADHD drug alone. And that's not looking at the future approvals and what they can do with the platform.
Yeah. So
So
look what
I'm,
else in the
I'm more excited
pipeline.
about,
I mean, they
yeah,
have
exactly.
the adult ADHD. Correct me if I'm wrong. The adult ADHD is coming up. It's the same drug, right? It's just like stronger, maybe. I don't know. I didn't really look into the adult.
Yeah, I believe it's stronger, maybe formulated a certain way, but yeah, that's what I believe. You're right.
And so that one, I mean, nothing's guaranteed, but I would assume the FDA is more conservative with pediatric drugs than they are adult drugs.
Right.
That should get approved. Maybe you can argue that's priced in, but it's probably not. But the one that's really exciting is that substance use disorder because there's nothing
Yeah.
for that. And I don't know if I mean, you're in Bakersfield. Here in LA, I mean, just go to any major metro city. There's substance abuse going on in record numbers. It's not really funny, but there's a obviously unmet need talking about your TAM, SAM, and the other SAM.
Yeah.
Huge,
And then the
huge unmet medical need.
hypersomnia, idiopathic. Yeah. And then even idiopathic hypersomnia. I mean, it's a rare disease, but that's also could be a significant platform for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think there's a lot to be excited about this company. I think what's happened is, when they got delisted and had to rego about their capital structure last year, that caused a lot of probably friction between the investment community, and there's probably a whole bunch of market participants institutionally that won't touch it for a certain time because of that. Then the warrant, the overhang of the overhang, that they probably dumped a bunch of warrants the day of the approval, so there's that hangover. Then there's the overhang that there's more warrants still to be coming. But the fact that the company was transparent about it on the earnings call, markets don't want good news or bad news. What they don't like is uncertainty. And what I think this company has done is worked towards removing all the uncertainties they can. Whether it's mechanical with how they're structured and listed on the stock market, with how they're going to market the drug, how they're going to manufacture the drug, how they're going to address the market. It seems they've done a very tremendous job, learned their lessons, and now want to really capitalize on this, what should be a blockbuster drug in the market.
Excuse me. Yeah. So let's talk the good and the bad. Let's start with some of the good, and we kind of got into some of the good, but there was a rumor yesterday, and shout out to Vivi Biotech Queen. I want you on the podcast too. She's always talking about KMPH also. So she did some investigating yesterday, and she found this former sales director for Vyvanse has just been hired by Corium. For Asteris, and that person, I don't know if it's true or not, this is just a tweet that she put out, but she's credible enough. They're bringing a lot of the Vyvanse, or they're trying to bring a lot of the Vyvanse team back to Corium, and it started with the sales director. So that's, to me, a very good sign that really more people need to know about. We talked about some of the other good stuff too. What about some of the bad? You talked about the warrants. What about generic competition? Are you worried about this?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be an issue. When they get their, Medicare is going to, the scheduling of the drug and the cost. But I think that that's going to come down to how well you can market the drug, and that'll be the true rubber to the road for this. And that's probably what I would look at. A couple months down the road, if you just don't see the drug selling, then we have an issue. But at this point, I don't think a bunch of ex-Vyvanse Shire individuals are jumping ship because they don't think that this product is going to move and make a benefit for patients. That to me is a major tell. So, I always say, don't watch how people vote with their words. Watch how people vote with two things: their feet and their money. And so in the case of, obviously we're watching people, what I believe is a large, not gathering, but momentum with people, whether it's on StockTwits or Reddit or Twitter, that are joining this company and are buying for the long term. And secondly, you're seeing, so that's with the money, and the markets are irrational in the short term. There's no doubt on the upside and downside. But look at how people are voting with their feet in the industry. So if you saw a bunch of people say, I'm going to exit KemPharm and I'm going to go work for another pharmaceutical company, no, it looks like a lot of the people who worked for the blockbuster drug in the past are now coming here. And, there's a great story I always tell people that, I knew a pharmaceutical rep. The story about her was, always watch the company she's working for and invest in that company, because she just had the golden touch of picking them. She worked for Genentech years ago, and as we all know, Genentech was bought by Roche, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
IPO darling back in the early 90s.
Darling, she made a ton of money, and so she got her beach house in Southern California, and she was retired, and she was one of the first kind of reps there. So she made good money, and all the shares she got as part of the investment comp. So she was retired, and she came back to work and went to work for Gilead early, before Gilead started to really, and I know Gilead is not the hottest company anymore, but before the Hep C drug approval. So she was working there, and then she rode that train, and she then retired and got her beach house in Northern California. So
I like that. I like what you
so
said.
yeah, so watch how people vote with their feet. And so if I see more Shire people and Vyvanse people continue to join Corium, which seems to be validated, it seems that Corium, it doesn't seem, it's evident Corium is leveraging themselves to KemPharm's platform for their success. I think that this just needs to get some of the weaker hands out. It needs to probably reconcile this past month. And on top of that, the risk has been a market risk as well in terms of executing the sales strategy. So that, that's the actual market they're in, but the overall, equity markets, particularly biotech. If you look at the XBI biotech index, S&P biotech index, it's been crushed on as well as the NASDAQ this month.
Yeah, I'm getting
and
hurt.
So I had this approval happened in January or late last year. Who knows? We may be sitting at a $40 stock.
I was
already.
telling you this off camera. Like, man, this is just bad timing. I remember when the KMPH news came out. The following trading day was the worst day I can remember in a long time on the Wall Street. I mean, everything was down like 8%, and KMPH was still up like 2% or something. But unbelievable. But you know what? I like what you said about watch what people do with their actions, because you make a good point. These sales reps make a lot of money. A lot of it is also tied to performance, like commissions, right? So for somebody to leave Vyvanse, for a manager, this was a sales manager that's left Vyvanse to come onto KMPH. First of all, this is likely somebody who's doing well. Like, they don't need to take a risk right now. They probably see that this is another great opportunity. They wouldn't just leave to go anywhere. Somebody from Vyvanse, right? They probably have money. They can get any job they want, and they're choosing to come here for a reason. So to me, that's I like that you brought that up. I think more people need to know about that too.
Yeah.
Another
there's an old adage. They say, did people go from mainland China to Hong Kong, or did they go from Hong Kong to Atlanta? Back in the day, it's like same idea with whether pharmaceutical company or Tesla or whatever company you're looking at. Watch how people vote with their feet or their actions. Yeah.
Another huge asset that no one talks about. I don't know why. This company doesn't do a good job promoting itself, which is unbelievable, because it doesn't make any sense how their fans, I guess, I don't know how other way to describe them. Their fans are out there on the internet. I mean, StockTwits is full of KMPH fans. My comment section, every time I do a KMPH video, I can do like a 20-second video, just KMPH in the title, gonna get like 50 likes for no reason, just because it's more coverage on KMPH. One of the biggest assets this company has is their CEO and the founder, Dr. Travis Mickle. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. We're really close. At the end, I want to get some questions from you of what I should ask him. But people don't understand. This guy like created Vyvanse, right? He's a scientist. This is not a business person running a company trying to make a quick flip. This is a scientist who, like you said, passionate about his own condition and his kids' conditions, ADHD. So more needs to be said about Travis Mickle. And this is one of the reasons why I'm really excited to have him on the show. But just like as the largest investor of KMPH, can you let us know some of your thoughts? I'm sure you guys looked into the CEO before you invest that kind of money into a stock. What did you guys think?
No, absolutely.
Due diligence.
I think he's probably struggled with some of the capital budgeting in the past. I mean, they went through a lot of money, and I think maybe he learned his lessons. He's probably a better scientist than a business guy. But I think now they've got the business aspect figured out, and he needs to be left alone to do the science. And I think the relationship with Corium allows him to not have to focus on marketing and manufacturing, because what he cares about is the science and developing these drugs. So.
And that's at the end of the day, what would you want in your biotech company, right? You don't necessarily want a businessman. You want the scientist, because the business people are easier to find than the scientists.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's
You want the Jennifer Doudna,
exactly, man.
yeah.
You're reading my mind. She's like top of mind right now for everything I'm doing. I'm finishing up the 2 books so I could do like an entire video series on her and CRISPR and even the other one from France, Charpentier. I mean, amazing people. So those are harder to find than the
Yeah.
business people, right? Those are, you can be trained to be a business person. Scientist, I don't know. It takes a lot more effort to be trained to be a scientist.
Yeah. That's right.
So can we
Absolutely.
get a price target from
Absolutely.
you? Can we get a price target from you, or you're not into that?
This is gonna sound high in the sky, but I believe that it needs to regain in money. It's a little bit of volume on the stock and a little bit of stabilization in the markets and a little bit of stabilization in the biotech index. And I think this gets way back into the 20s. And if I have to guess, there should be, my prediction is a $35 buyout by some pharmaceutical company that needs to replenish their pipeline. So I would
Hmm.
say, a market price of 20s, and I think a company that's looking in the future for wanting sales to refresh their pipeline, I would have to guess they wouldn't want to give the company up for anything less than 35. Uh, and I base that based on the market cap of the stock and the sales potential, that, what they could do in 2030. I mean, if the ADHD market by 2030 grows to, I don't know, I mean, conservatively 25 to $30 billion, I mean, it's about increasing by, I would say, a billion to year in the market growth. So, you take those numbers and you're at about I think it was about in 2018, 2019 was a $17 billion market plus.
Yeah, I read
By
somewhere
in
that by
today in 2021 number.
yeah, I was reading yesterday some by 2025 it's supposed to be 37 billion. I don't know if that's accurate, but I read that somewhere. The ADHD market.
Yeah, but for the terms of the stock price, I'm trying to, under promise and over deliver. And
Yeah,
again, this is not financial advice, but and anything can happen. There could be missteps. There could be lack of execution, etc. But if everything goes at a moderate scale, and the total addressable market hits a conservative growth, which by all means and societal trends, ADHD market is probably going to become greater. Um, by 2025 to 2030, a major pharmaceutical company would see that, okay, they've captured, 2% of that market, of a $30 billion market by 2030. What do you got there? $600 million in sales. And would they get 30% of that? 25% of that is royalties just on this drug. So you're looking at sales, and I personally think a lot of that will happen sooner. And 2% of the market is conservative. I think I've seen estimates in 5 to 7% of the market they should be able to get.
sure, for best in class.
You're looking at sales that are double or triple the market cap of the company, including all the fully diluted shares, counting the warrants. So, I think a $1.5 billion buyout for this company seems cheap. And I'm not saying it's going to get bought out, but then if I do some discounted cash flow and then look at the sales, if Corium executes and we get those payments outside of just the $400 million in milestone payments, just the royalties alone,
Hmm.
that backs me into a $30+ a stock in the near future.
I'm
And
glad.
that's if everything goes conservatively. Heaven forbid that they not start to actually moderately and start exceeding things. I don't know. Sky should be the limit.
I'm glad you brought out the buyout. And there's two things I'd like to talk about. Like, try to focus on some of the negative to see how we can work through this rationally, logically. The buyout. What I've read, and I know there's been a lot of hit pieces written, which is why I don't mind doing all these videos myself. Um,
The hit
but
piece is what motivated me to come on, because that hit piece this week
really,
was just, I just couldn't believe they would play something that, and that just shows you the internet, you know, never believe what you hear and only half of what you see, you know?
yeah.
It's I couldn't believe the stuff they were talking about. I mean, blatant misinformation. So
And I always find it hilarious that these guys become influencers and they never go on camera. Like it's just behind the pen, like somewhere, like
Yeah.
on a computer. But okay, the buyout. The Bears have been saying, well, they're giving up so much to Corium. Who's going to buy them out? The only one that could buy them out is the parent company, Corium, right? And GPC, I believe.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people? Like, would a Pfizer or somebody want to buy this, even with those royalties?
I wouldn't see why not. I mean, why wouldn't they want, 24% of the royalties of a sales drug that they can get? And so I just can't see why somebody would say, well, just because there's somebody else involved. In fact, that's probably more incentive because they have to, they don't, if the marketing machine is working and the manufacturing machine is working, maybe somebody not as big as Pfizer, maybe somebody a little bit smaller than them goes and says, okay, it's perfect for us because we just want the royalties on this thing. So I could see also maybe not a publicly traded pharma company buying them, but
Hmm.
maybe a privately held pharmaceutical company taking them on because of the aspect of the cash flows.
Okay. And then final thing, and I thank you so much for your time.
And
Uh,
there's nothing wrong with Corium buying them, and there's also nothing
true.
wrong with the company continuing on with its own path because I think they have a great platform. So
Well, I guess the whole thing with Corium buying them, and you can get into the conspiracy theories here, is that they're trying to keep the price down so that they can have a cheap price. That's, and
yeah,
then if you're a shareholder, I don't know how good that is for you. It's just conspiracy, but I've read, when you go on StockTwits, you see all kinds of stuff.
yeah.
Um, what about the other bear case that, well, 3013 label's great, but do you really need that with a kid? And I don't know. I mean, I'm not a parent. I never dealt with ADHD. Is there any validity to that argument?
I'm a parent of a young daughter, and I have another child on the way. I don't know if they have ADHD or not. I don't think they do, but anything can happen. I myself, I've not been diagnosed with ADHD, but I know that I was a hyper kid, um, and growing up as a hyper kid, I couldn't imagine if I actually was ADHD for my parents because I know I drove them crazy. So I can only imagine for working parents to for everything from behavioral issues at school to getting them to be disciplined at home, and just the trajectory of the child to be able to achieve things, and
Mm,
for the parents to be able to go about their lives. Why wouldn't you want something like that? And all the channel checks I've done is that that's what people want. They want something that kicks in quickly in the morning and can last and then not affect sleep. So
okay. Yeah, and as you were talking, I was thinking about my childhood, and I actually had some friends who had severe ADHD, like when I was 9, 10 years old. And I remember even like as a 10-year-old, I was like looking at this guy like, geez, he needs to take his meds right now. And he was like completely different person when he took his meds, but
yeah.
uh so yeah, I mean, I guess you have to like live it to understand that particular component of this picture.
Yeah, I mean, parents, I mean, in this day and age, I mean, if you look at most people are working class now, and there's not, the era of having a stay-at-home mother is less and less frequent.
Hmm.
And so, what do? You don't have someone that can give the. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying these are the sad realities of the world we live in. I mean, I teach two
Yeah.
courses at university in finance, and we talked about interest rates actually yesterday.
Oh, you do? Where do you
And
teach? Where do you teach?
Cal State University, Bakersfield.
Oh,
So
okay. You were telling me
yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
Cool.
we talked about the working class and interest rates, and one student was, so we need to raise interest rates in this country, and then a bunch of people came up and said, the impact it would have on working families to raise interest rates would be devastating, and also in the same way, you as have more working families, people are going to need options for their children who are suffering from ADHD, and in a manner that is safe, and is just safe and efficient,
Hmm.
with the
That's
efficacy.
a good answer to that question. So thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, those are the questions I had. Obviously, you have a whole nother aspect to your career with the CRO and whole nother
Yeah.
company. So I definitely want to bring you back on for Guru Nation. It doesn't always
Sure.
have to be KMPH,
Absolutely.
guys. We just, you heard
No.
Niraj. The hit piece pissed him off, and he wanted to come on. I think the hit piece is starting to piss off
Yeah.
Dr. Mickle because he's gonna come on, and he's a very
Yeah.
private person. He doesn't do this kind of stuff. But he personally
Yeah.
responded to me on LinkedIn and said he will like to come on. So I'm dealing with his staff right now. Any questions
Yeah.
you would like me to
I
ask?
think the one thing, if I was going to give, if I was just going to ask, the one main question is, can they, maybe they want to make a hire that can be a bit more proactive in investor relations. I think that's someone that can go out there to the institutions and start spreading the message of, and clear up the things that went wrong in the past, and talk about how that won't go from a capital standpoint in the future.
Okay.
I think that's the only thing. It's just getting the
You're gonna
investor
piss off their
relations,
current investor relation person.
no, and I don't mean it I don't mean it in terms of, because I've spoken with their investor relations, they're great, but I
Okay.
mean it in terms of in business development, investor relations. Right now, the investor or defense people call in and they have to answer the inquiries. I would like Dr. Mickle to ask him and say, advise him or ask him and advise him and say, why don't you start playing offense with some investor, whether that means you taking on some of that responsibility or hiring somebody that's well versed and has the belief and the passion to be able to talk to markets, investors, institutional investors, to the online forums, communities, every single segment of investors. And then I think, maybe if he addresses that, he would, be willing to sell the company at a good price if the market price doesn't manifest itself. I think that would also maybe help, some of the people to hold the shares that have been that are maybe getting scared, but they want to be long-term holders and say that, Dr. Mickle, you have this thing, this asset, this company, will you wait 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, and make sure that, there's a return on investment for your shareholders? And if that means finding an exit, are you willing to do that? Have you been approached by companies?
Right.
Can you disclose that? And so those would be the things I would ask.
Those are good questions
And
to ask.
advise.
We'll see if he answers. One of the things that I've noticed, and we were just touting him as a legend scientist. We need to give these guys more shine. Like, it's not all about athletes and things like that. Like, the scientists out there, they're actually making society a better place. One of the drawbacks would be, well, the scientist, maybe he thinks so highly of the drug because he personally has the conviction that he's like, well, it'll eventually come out that this is a great company. Maybe we don't want to do that right now. So he could be taking that approach. I don't know. And this does show you that there's no such thing as a perfect founder or perfect CEO. If you get the science, maybe you have the trade back that, well, maybe the biz dev is not as good as it could be, or vice versa. But I would still bet on the jockey in biotech of the scientist over the business person.
Absolutely. I would do that in any industry, to be honest. A lot of my investment thesis is looking for rock star founders like Jack Dorsey or
would you consider Dr. Mickle rock star status?
I think so. In terms of the science, I think they definitely spent a lot of money to get to this point, and everything from the capital structure, having the delisting and all that. I think there's missteps, but Elon Musk, how many times was Tesla almost bankrupt, and he was looking to spend so much money in manufacturing, but they get through these things. And look, he had a big win for that ADHD approval. And I don't think the market is pricing and rewarding that approval correctly.
Right.
And let's hope Corium can start to get the sales are going to start second half of the year, right before school starts. Everything is making sense from a strategy standpoint here. And so unless there's some risk in the weeds that we don't see or they're not disclosing, I can't understand why this is not a $20 plus stock and not moving towards 35 in the long term.
Hopefully soon, man. Hopefully for my case and my subscribers' case soon. So I'm getting hit up a lot, but I'm like, guys, Just be patient. All right. Fundamentals catch up. Typically, fundamentals always catch up if given enough time.
Yeah.
Niraj, you're going to have a bunch of people reaching out. What should I do? Put your LinkedIn in
Sure.
the show notes, or what? How should people reach out to you?
Yeah, you can put my LinkedIn. That I think that would be good. I have a Twitter, arbitrage drama. I'm on there all the time too.
Oh, I
So
didn't know you have a Twitter. Okay, I got to follow.
yeah, kind of an alias. I put like some rap lyrics on there all the time.
That's
So
great.
I kind of alias as a kind of a quasi poet. You know,
I always
rap
tell my
poet.
friends there's a rap lyric for any situation in life ever.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, Niraj, I appreciate
Okay,
it. Thank you very
Dan, I
much.
appreciate
And
the time and keep up the great work you're doing. So I look forward to building our relationship.
likewise, I look forward to bringing you back on for clinical research talk.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Awesome. You too.